probably the first word that comes to mind is cold.
It's cold. At the moment it's cold. It's,
cold and windy and damp.
The condensation in here was really surprising. You know, we thought we had leaks.
It wasn't.
There was that much moisture. But no, it was just the condensation on the windows was literally running down the windows.
Yeah, we'd wake up in the morning and the pillows at the end of the bed would be damp. I've got rust marks on the sheets because they were getting damp and hitting the mattress frame.
If you live in Kinglake, you accept the cold.
Yeah.
It's a cold place.
And it's a different type of cold. It's a cold that settles down onto you. You can feel it getting into your bones, the cold. Yeah, I was telling you before when we have the door open to the annex and it's a really foggy day, it's foggy inside the annex.
Yeah.
Can you tell me what it's like trying to psych yourself up to get out of bed to get into the shower?
It's not... the showers, it's not too bad, right?
It's warm once you're in there.
You go out there, you get in the shower and strip all your clothes off, right? And the hot water goes on really quickly. So the trip from the shower back to the caravan's an exciting one. But I find it terribly difficult to stand there in those temperatures for 5 or 10 minutes and have a shave. It's minus 2 degrees and
we
your
found
fingers
out
go numb
and we found out there's a couple of times Louise went out to have a shower and we'd run out of gas. She didn't say anything. She just had a cold. The poor girl. Well, look, she's like that. Let's just get on with it, you know. Yeah, she's got that attitude, so which is good.
Rebuilding has been a painfully slow process. A coroner's embargo immediately after the fires and the subsequent clean-up took almost 5 months. Leanne was given the all-clear to rebuild on June 30 last year. A bushfire attack level or BAL assessment took another 3 months, but even then a scarcity of builders willing and available to work on the mountain has slowed rebuilding efforts to a snail's pace. Leanne and Andy eventually decided to go with a kit home, doing as much of the building as they can themselves. More than a year after they began their new home, they almost have a floor.
It's very slow. It's been a very slow process. It was all hinged on all this paperwork and process you had to go through. And to try and get tradespeople up here is ridiculous. It's just, impossible.
A lot of them just said, as soon as we said Kinglake, they said, no, we won't go to Kinglake. Even the people that will come to Kinglake have been overwhelmed with business, and people have signed up with them and haven't started building yet. So
it's the fact they can't get the tradesmen to come up here and work. You know, so unless the people in the office pick a hammer up and come and do it themselves, there's nothing they can do. People just have to wait. So the house that we went with was a kit home, so that we can do some work ourselves. It's at joist level, so we've almost got a floor. And once the floor goes on, it'll be a lot easier. The walls will go up very easily. They're prefabricated, and just to have a stable platform that's not in mud. Normally, if you plan to build a house, you can plan it over a long period of time and choose things, etc. We didn't have a choice in this. It was forced on us. So, one day we had a home, the next day we didn't. So we don't have too tight an expectation because we don't want to be disappointed and we don't want to be rushing to a deadline or a particular date. So we're just going to do it, put as much time in as we can, and it'll take as long as it takes. So it will get easier weather-wise. As it gets warmer.
And more light.
And as it gets warmer, there'll be less mud. So it'll be easier to dry things. The kids' clothes, Nicholas has got a bag in the wash now of clothes he's had to take out of his wardrobe, and I have to go wash and dry because they've gone mouldy in his wardrobe. So, I have to. That won't be happening. But then I think I haven't told the kids yet. With the heat comes the spiders, so there'll be pulling their clothes out of their wardrobe. There won't be mould on it. There'll be huntsmen's on it. But I wasn't sure how the kids were going to cope, which is why we rented up here for the first 12 months. Before we decided to, I wanted to see how the kids were going to cope. They did lose a lot. They lost, everything they owned, all their little treasures and whatnot, and photos and trophies and whatever. They lost a lot of friends, particularly Nicholas, a lot of school friends, and we lost the dogs. So 3 dogs, our 3 dogs all died, and Louise's guinea pigs all died. So we weren't sure how they were going to be about being back up here, but they were, as soon as we moved up in the house, they were better than what they were when we were staying at my brother's. And then when we moved here, they're just so much better again. And they just seem to be so, it's hard on them, it's damp, it's cold, some days it's pretty miserable, and they're as happy as, you know, I can't believe how happy they are some days just to be home. Yeah, Andy used to say to move away, you know, because it's in our face and you won't ever be able to forget it. And I said to him, it wouldn't matter if we were living at the North Pole, you wouldn't forget this. So that's not a good enough reason to not be here. And Kinglake is such, I know it doesn't really look it at the moment, but Kinglake is such a beautiful place. And particularly when it's not cold. And, you know, that it's worth the effort and the work and the time so that we can be back here, because it is such a beautiful place.
It's their town, and that's the only town they've ever known, and yeah, I think they would have really suffered if we'd have moved away. I think that was the correct decision to stay, even though it's got a lot of bad memories, so it's got a lot of good ones as well.